Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So previously I completed a few different Inktober prompts. This video is the last part of the 3-part series documenting my artworks throughout Inktober. You can find both the previous videos up on my channel right now. Give them a watch once you've finished with this one. I started off with a few thumbnail sketches for the prompt Spicy, but I found myself stuck on it for a very long time. When I first heard the word, all I could picture was a chili. How could I creatively and magically interpret a chili? A chili flake house, a chili garden in the moonlight. After hours of brainstorming and scrolling through Pinterest for warm, cozy, autumn-inspired ideas, I stumbled upon an image of a red fox hibernating in the snow. And that's when inspiration struck. For this prompt, I decided to interpret Spicy as a red chili-colored fox curled up in a snow globe, or rather a chili globe or a chili flake globe, whatever rolls off the tongue better. I wanted to use a warm autumn color palette with reds, purples and blues. The initial mini drawing time-lapse that I showed at the start of this video had a different concept. I first envisioned an autumn forest inside the snow globe with branches extending out to form the base. However, as I kept drawing, I realized that the branch base idea wasn't working as well as I pictured, so I switched to a simple wooden base for the globe, which I liked much better. There are always twists and new inspirations that come up as you work on an artwork, so it's important to be open to changes and not feel bound to your original plan. As I continued painting, I felt that the background needed something more, so I thought about adding a denim-inspired pocket square. I tried a few ideas on my iPad and finally settled on one with some intuitive designs around it. Just whatever came to mind. I wanted the process to feel liberating. In hindsight, I would have loved to make this into a mini animation like I did with the drip prompt in my previous video, but overall I was satisfied with how it turned out. Alright, so I was feeling a change of supplies for this one since I hadn't touched watercolors in a while. For Rise, I was inspired by sea waves rising with the tide and wanted to include a figure as part of the wave, emerging from the deep depths of the ocean. I envisioned a sea wave inspired dress with blues and purples to make up the color palette, obviously representing the ocean. For some contrast, I added green stingrays and orange koi fish flowing in the same direction as the figure to create movement in the piece. My intention behind using watercolors was to take full advantage of their beautiful layering effect. I also wanted to add an abstract, flowy and surrealistic element to the piece. With watercolors, you can't really control the medium. You have to let it do its own thing, and that's when it shines best. Color pencils layer great with watercolor, bringing out the rich hue underneath. I used it to highlight certain areas of the dress and emphasize the blue to violet gradient. I also added some final touches to the stingrays and koi fish to help them stand out against the background. To create the white foamy aspects of the waves, I used a liquid white colored pencil that an artist I admired had created, though I don't think she sells the product anymore. But I'm really glad I bought it at the time because it's been a great addition to my art supplies. And here's the final piece. Up next, we have Castle. Since I was following the theme of magic, the castle had to have a massive element of enchantment. For the latter prompts, I decided to switch up my supplies. So I went with some graphite for those beautiful rich values you can achieve from black to white. Thinking about Castle reminded me of the princess pop-up books I loved as a kid. There was always that one page with a castle that popped out and I was obsessed with them. So I imagined a magic storybook that opens to reveal a stunning paper castle popping out and full of life with butterflies and wonder, just like a child's imagination. For this piece, I used my mechanical pencil and Blackwing pencil to get the gradient of values for the castle. I also played around with different pencils to create a variation in line thickness. It might seem like a small detail, but it's crucial because using the wrong thickness can unintentionally emphasize an area and convey a different meaning to the piece. Imagine if a thick line accidentally drew attention to something insignificant in the scene. It could completely change the story the artwork is telling. So I carefully chose pencils to ensure that each line contributes exactly what I wanted to for the overall composition. I added the moon as the source of lighting to enhance the magical feel. Even though I have a basic understanding of lighting, I struggled a bit with where to emphasize the highlights and halftones. So I reached out to an artist I admire for feedback, and her advice was super helpful. I took some time off camera to integrate her suggestions and did a bit more research on lighting, especially for black and white drawings. You might notice the stubby little blending stump I'm using. It's great for evening out tones and smoothing transitions from dark to light areas. If you don't have one, you can also use a tissue or your finger. I often use my finger, but it can get graphite on your skin, so be careful not to smudge the whites of your paper. And that's all for this piece. Plum sparked my imagination with thoughts of a fruitful, abundant harvest season, especially fitting for October and its autumnal vibes. So in this piece, you'll find a bounty of leaves sprouting from the figure of Mother Nature as she nurtures a little birdie. I love to interpret prompts in unique ways, pushing my creativity to see how magically different I can make them. For this artwork, I chose watercolors to bring out a delicate, translucent quality, highlighting the gentle nature of both the figure and the creature. I drew inspiration from that beautiful interim period between summer and autumn, when the leaves display a stunning variation of greens, from the still vibrant and saturated ones to the duller shades ready to be shed and the reddish-orange hues of fallen leaves. By the way, let me give a shout out to these amazing brushes I found on Amazon. They held water perfectly, didn't shed any hairs, and were quite affordable. I'll drop the link below in case you're interested. As we near the finishing touches, I'm using color pencils to delicately outline a few leaves throughout the piece. And you guessed it, I couldn't resist adding a touch of gold border. It's become a signature touch of mine. The second to last prompt for this video is Jane's. Still riding the wave of inspiration from Plump, I found myself deeply immersed in thoughts about nature. This led me to think about tree trunks and branches and how intricately connected they are beneath the surface of the ground. Something hidden from our view unless we actually dig underground. I recalled learning about how trees share water and nutrients with each other, forming a vast network of interconnectedness. This idea sparked the creation of this piece. I was reminded of an article I read about a dying tree placed among a forest of healthy ones. Within a week or two, it began to revive itself, showcasing the power of interconnectedness and the chains of life that bind us all. This made me think about how humans too feel grounded and connected when surrounded by nature, whether it's lying on fresh green grass or sitting on a bench observing the moving clouds. It's in these moments that we truly feel interconnected with nature and the present moment. In this artwork, I combined the shape of the human heart's aorta with tree branches to emphasize this concept of interconnectedness. By interpreting the meaning of chains in a positive, earthy way, I aim to move away from the usual cold, steely associations of chains and instead highlight the warm, life-giving bonds that tie us all together. And finally, we've reached the last prompt for this video, sparkle. Though it wasn't the final prompt for Inktober, it was the last one I completed. I wanted to end with a colorful bang, so I pulled out my Acryla Gouache set again. A few months before this, the Barbie movie was released, so a friend and I rewatched some of the Barbie movies we grew up with. The new movie was nothing like those animated classics, but it got me inspired by Barbie of Swan Lake. In the movie, when she transforms into a swan, she wears this beautiful sparkly tiara. I wanted to capture that in a playing card, with the swan in the center of a massive sparkle shape. My phone died at this point, so I couldn't capture the painting of the swan, but you can see I used a vibrant pastel color palette throughout the piece. I also bought this iridescent medium by Winsor & Newton a while ago, meant to be used with watercolor, but since the theme is sparkle, you know I had to use it to add that extra bit of shine and sparkle to the piece. By now, I had significantly improved my skills with Acryla Gouache, and I wasn't as frustrated as I was when I started this series. I found myself getting lost in the creation of this piece, and it quickly became one of my favorites. My biggest takeaway from working on these various drawings, experimenting with different styles, mediums, and techniques, was discovering what I truly enjoy creating. I found that I particularly love pieces that incorporate figures and animals together. This process also helped me recognize what I enjoy painting, areas where I excel, and aspects I need to improve upon. The more works you complete, the better you understand what resonates with you and what works best. A few final touches, and here is the completed piece. So that's all for this video, you guys. Leave a comment below on which piece was your favorite. If you haven't already watched the previous videos, I'll link it at the end of this one and in the description below. Hit the like sign and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!